Man, these teams, I told you earlier, these WNBA franchises that moved games like the Chicago Sky to the United Arena, you're screwed. You're done. You're cooked. Nobody is going to show up to this thing. Chicago Sky can't sell out their own 9,000-something seat arena like it is. They couldn't when they were kind of decent. They're a dumpster fire now, and now that Caitlin Clark is injured, the ticket prices for the Fever and Sky game just plummeted to Hades.
Sold out games, social media buzzing, and a new wave of fans tuning in every night. For the first time, it looked like women's basketball was breaking into the big leagues. You couldn't scroll TikTok or turn on ESPN without seeing highlights, packed arenas, and constant hype. But all that excitement took a sudden hit when one simple headline changed everything. Caitlin Clark would be out for a few weeks. No major injury, just a short absence, but the reaction was instant and dramatic. Ticket sales dropped, energy disappeared, and even the hottest matchups lost their spark. It was like pulling the most important piece out of a tower and watching the whole thing start to shake. The league had to face a tough question. Was this new golden era built to last? Or was it all riding on one superstar's shoulders? The answer hit hard, revealing just how much Caitlin Clark meant to the WNBA's whole future.
The Caitlin Clark effect has been a net positive for the WNBA and all of its teams. But the star guard expected to miss a minimum of 2 weeks. The league will see the flip side of her impact, and there are already initial data points. This is front office sports. No conspiracies, no BS from them.
Right before the news broke, the WNBA was on fire. Every Indiana Fever game was a hot ticket, with fans willing to pay big just to sit courtside and be part of the action. Teams across the league were making big moves, trying to cash in on the Caitlin Clark effect. The Chicago Sky took a massive gamble, moving their Fever matchup from a small gym to the giant United Center, an NBA-level arena, because they knew Clark could fill every seat. People weren't coming for just any basketball. They wanted to see Caitlin in person. Her impact wasn't just on the scoreboard. She was the reason crowds were packed, arenas were sold out, and rivals were adjusting their entire business strategy. It was obvious she was the main event, the name on everyone's lips, and the reason the WNBA was having its best season yet.
It should be a wake-up call to the WNBA, the Players Association, the team owners, that just like that, all this fanfare, all this interest, all this newfound attention on the league can disappear overnight.
But then everything flipped almost overnight. What started as a tiny rumor about Caitlin Clark missing time quickly became the story everyone was talking about. As soon as she was officially sidelined, the atmosphere across the league deflated. Ticket prices tanked, attendance dropped, and that unstoppable buzz disappeared. Take that sold-out Chicago game as proof. Tickets that cost nearly $90 were suddenly going for $25, a jaw-dropping drop nobody expected. It wasn't just a one-time thing either. Other big games like the Fever's trip to Washington saw the same empty seats and cheap tickets. The message was clear. Without Caitlin, the excitement and energy just weren't the same, and the league was forced to realize how much everything really depended on its brightest star.
Chicago Sky can't sell out their own 9,000-something seat arena like it is. They couldn't when they were kind of decent. They're a dumpster fire now.
It wasn't just the high-profile games feeling the impact. Ticket prices all over the league started nosediving the minute Caitlin Clark was ruled out. A seat that had cost over $40 a few days earlier was suddenly selling for barely $20. That's not a minor dip. It's the kind of price crash that makes everyone, fans, team owners, ticket resellers, stop and stare. If you looked at the numbers from a distance, the pattern was almost shocking. Over just a 2-week stretch, tickets for 5 of the Fever's most anticipated matchups were suddenly way more affordable, dropping from close to $140 on average to barely $80. No flashy marketing could slow the free fall. The message was clear. With Caitlin out, the value of the ticket itself changed. What everyone expected to be sold-out, high-energy events turned into nights where fans hesitated, wondering if it was still worth it without the league's biggest draw. The buzz wasn't just gone, it vanished in record time, leaving teams scrambling to fill seats and reminding everyone just how fragile excitement can be when it's built around one true superstar.
When they're halfway good, they stink now. Yeah, it's about me too. No, it's not, and this is proof.
fans made their feelings crystal clear. This wasn't a small dip in excitement or a subtle change in the crowd, this was a dramatic shift. The moment Caitlin Clark was out of the lineup, the entire vibe inside WNBA arenas flipped. Instead of the usual roar and anticipation, there was a weird quiet, almost like a party that ended before it even started. Even before tip-off, it felt like all the energy had been drained from the building. Players noticed it, reporters picked up on it, and rival teams could sense that something essential was missing. All those celebrations about women's basketball finally making it seemed suddenly fragile. Underneath the big headlines and record-breaking numbers was a simple truth. People weren't just coming for the game, they were coming for Caitlin. The spike in attendance, the social media frenzy, the jerseys flying off the shelves, all traced back to her. With one superstar gone, the whole structure seemed shaky, exposing just how much the league's rapid rise depended on one unstoppable player to keep the lights bright and the stands packed.
The Indiana Fever ticket prices to games over the next 2 weeks have dropped 42% since Caitlin Clark's injury announcement, from $137 all the way down to $80. Now, it has been less than 48 hours since the announcement was made that Caitlin Clark would be out for at minimum 2 weeks. Get-in price for the Sky vs. Fever game on June 7th was $86 just 48 hours ago. Now it's down to $25 after Caitlin Clark's injury announcement.
For the WNBA, Caitlin's absence wasn't just about losing a star for a few nights, it was an uncomfortable look in the mirror. Suddenly, all the bold talk about a new era for women's basketball had to face the hard numbers. Those sold-out games, those endless streams of highlights on social media, even the deals with sponsors and broadcasters, all were tied directly or indirectly to Caitlin's magnetic presence. Her style, personality, and jaw-dropping performances weren't just driving headlines, they were driving the entire business. Every time she stepped off the court, the league lost a little of its magic. There was a new kind of anxiety among team owners and league officials. Could the excitement last, or would it all fade if the spotlight ever shifted? Beyond all the viral moments and celebratory tweets, the reality was staring them down. The league needed more stars with that kind of gravity, or risk having its momentum stall out every time Caitlin missed a game. The pressure to find the next big name suddenly felt a lot more urgent, and the league had no choice but to confront how much its future rested on one remarkable player's shoulders.
Get in the back. We know Caitlin Clark was lost yesterday to an injury for at least 2 weeks. Now, the thing about it is they're going to reevaluate in 2 weeks. And of course, man, these teams, I told you earlier, these WNBA franchises that moved games like the Chicago Sky to the United Arena, you're screwed. You're done. You're cooked. Nobody is going to show up to this thing. Chicago Sky can't sell out their own 9,000 something seat arena like it is. They couldn't when they were kind of decent.
The entire league felt the aftershocks. For WNBA officials and team execs, this wasn't just a couple of games with lower turnout, it was a full-blown warning siren. If a brief break for Caitlin Clark could send ticket sales tumbling and buzz evaporating, what did that say about the league's foundations? Suddenly, every plan that depended on packed arenas and sold-out rivalry games was at risk. Even the most anticipated matchups, like the massive showdown between the Chicago Sky and Indiana Fever, lost their sizzle almost instantly. The stadium that had been expected to echo with cheers felt strangely hollow as rows of empty seats replaced the usual wall of fans. The excitement that once felt endless now seemed fragile, and even casual viewers could sense the shift. This wasn't just a typical star injury. The league was watching in real time as its best gamble was tested. Without Caitlin, the magic faded fast, leaving teams scrambling to keep interest alive and making it clear it takes more than hype to keep women's basketball on top.
Too bad. I mean, it's more statistical proof, data, to confirm exactly what we've been saying, that Caitlin Clark is driving this whole ship, this whole bus. She's driving it. Everybody else get in the back.
With Caitlin Clark suddenly out of the spotlight, everyone wondered who would step up. Attention immediately turned to Angel Reese, a player known for her swagger, bold style, and a fan base that extended way beyond the court. She'd already carved out a huge reputation as a cultural influencer, not just an athlete. Social feeds filled with clips of her big plays and fiery interviews. The league hoped Angel could keep the momentum alive, maybe even spark a new era of excitement. Reese herself fueled that idea, confidently declaring that fans tuned in for her, that she was the reason people cared about the game. It was a bold claim, and for a moment, the spotlight burned her way. The league, still riding the waves of Caitlin's stardom, needed someone to keep the sellouts coming and the social feeds buzzing. All eyes were on Angel to see if she could deliver.
We have seen all over social media fans saying that they didn't want to watch the games if she wasn't going to be there, they weren't going to watch on television, they weren't going to show up at the arena. This is what one fan said. They said, "Once I found out Caitlin wasn't playing, it didn't make sense for us to fly to Indianapolis. We are Caitlin fans before Fever fans. She's the biggest draw. That's who the girls want to see. That's the whole point of us going to Indy, seeing Caitlin Clark. When she was injured, we thought, let's just postpone until August."
But as the games rolled on, reality set in. The numbers spoke loud and clear. With Angel Reese as the new focus, the pressure was on to keep the crowds fired up and the ticket lines moving. The league and the media hyped the big Chicago Sky versus Indiana Fever matchup as another must-see showdown, expecting another flood of fans. Instead, the vibe just wasn't the same. The moment Caitlin was out, ticket demand plunged, and arenas that were supposed to be packed felt way too empty. This wasn't just a one-night blip. The trend showed up everywhere, from big cities to Reese's hometown markets. Even events heavily promoted around Angel saw ticket prices fall almost 50%, a sign that the hype wasn't turning into real fan passion. Fans still cheered and tuned in, but the electric energy that surrounded Caitlin just didn't follow anyone else. The difference was impossible to ignore.
Statistical data. The Indiana Fever will play 2 road games during the coming 2-week stretch, both of which were moved by their opponents to arenas with larger capacity, and the ticket prices have drastically dropped for both games since Clark's injury was announced Monday. Wednesday's Fever game versus the Mystics at CFG Bank Arena in Baltimore has a get-in price of $22. Wow! Down 47% from the minimum $41 ticket price before the announcement, according to TickPick.
After Caitlin Clark's injury, the mood across the league shifted dramatically. Angel Reese, who's usually known for her confidence and never shying away from the spotlight, suddenly went quiet as attendance dipped and headlines focused on empty seats. Fans and league insiders started asking tough questions. Was Angel overwhelmed by the weight of those expectations, or just choosing not to engage? Either way, the silence was deafening. Everyone could see the difference between being famous and being the force that lifts the whole league. No matter how much Reese's brand grew off the court, the cold facts were impossible to ignore. Without Caitlin, no one else could keep the WNBA's momentum alive on their own. The numbers were a reality check. Even the biggest personalities can't fill arenas by themselves. The gap between star power and true superstar gravity became impossible to ignore, leaving Angel and the league facing the hard truth. There's only one Caitlin Clark, and her impact can't be replaced.